to Medica Nova Wellness Studio. I'm Angelika Maria Koch with your educational videos about optimal health and the most innovative and holistic approach to your well-being. So in today's Discovery series, Healthy Family and Soul Medicine, I thought I want to spend some time on the theme how we can help our growing adolescents suffering from anorexia and bulimia. It's a very serious condition. Rather than pumping them up with antidepressants or mood-altering substances, let's turn our attention to a more holistic and lasting solution. From my experience in clinical practice for over so many years, I wholeheartedly can share with you there's a way out and a way through. And before we continue with the exciting subject, to stay updated with more ongoing videos, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, share and like it with your friends. Thank you so much for that. To book your place for your home study online courses, you can go to my website medicanova.net at the Online Academy. So anorexia nervosa is usually considered more among women, and historically speaking, yes, 90 to 95% of anorexia nervosa sufferers are among more the females, but it's creeping into the male population as well. So today they say about 1% of all women living in the US are considered to be suffering from anorexia nervosa, making it the most common psychiatric disorders among young women. So according to the National Eating Disorders Organization, anorexia nervosa is a serious, sometimes life-threatening eating disorders characterized, of course, by self-starvation and the excessive weight loss. Now, not everybody who loses weight, is anorexic. There can be many other aspects involved: malnutrition, lack of assimilation of food, and of course stress plays such a big role today in our challenging world. So while I was researching the latest statistic for this video, I recognized that about 60 to 80% of our schoolgirls consciously binge, purge or starve on a regular basis. In fact, they want to be anorexic. Well, no wonder. Look at the fashion magazines, right? Look at these beanstalks, dead corpses running along the catwalks. I mean, that's the idol they have to match up to. It's a complete false reality. They're also very disappointed when they can't vomit, which then leads them to become bulimic, which is binge eating, and then you forcefully, vomit the food up or use laxatives. Puberty and adolescence are especially dangerous times for undereating because the body is still growing. Now, during this very critical period, rapidly developing bodies, they really require about an average of 2,500 high quality calories per day, and these girls often starve themselves with under 1,000 calories per day, and that's based on junk food anyway. So the body is really lacking nutrients. And this starvation dieting can quickly develop then into obsessive compulsive eating like anorexia and bulimia. So why is it so easy to become bulimic suddenly? It's also a chemical reaction. One reason is that both the binging and the vomiting can trigger sort of waves of a very potent brain chemicals. They're called endorphins. And the release of this natural, almost heroin-like brain chemical actually helps establish the powerful compulsion that bulimics are helpless to fight. So in the first place, we have the symptomatology of anorexia: weight loss, lack of appetite, depression, and so on. But then once the girl loses the weight, a chemical change starts to kick in, which produces exactly the same symptomatology as the actual disease in the first place. Do you see how complex it becomes? What are the common signs and symptoms of anorexia nervosa? Of course, drastic, intentional weight loss and weight changes, which happen very frequently. severely limiting the number of calories which are consumed each day. Intense fear of weight gain or becoming fat, which often leads them to this obsessiveness and anxiety. They also engage in unusual or persistent behaviors in order to manage the weight gain or make sure that they sort of don't have any weight gain in the first place. So there are really strict dietary rules, implied here. They select food. This is not safe for me to eat. I only can eat that. Of course, they eat only small quantities several times a day or just once a day. So the body is exposed to a constant starvation mode. And then when they break the rules, they feel disappointed, there's anxiety, and there's a lot of guilt involved, which just starts the whole cycle all over again. Extreme low self-esteem, also a very negative image about their body. Inability to appreciate the consequences which result from my eating disorders, which I will share with you in a minute. There's a whole list of physical symptomatology involved, which follows the eating disorder. So they don't want help. I don't have an eating disorder. Don't talk to me. There's denial of hunger, lying about their eating behaviors, refusing to eat around friends, leaving parties, making excuses, avoid sort of social situations, withdrawal from friends. So if you see any of that, that's an alarm bell. Of course, sometimes there can be also mental disorders associated to this situation. Again, depression, but also substance abuse or prescription medication abuse can actually create anorexia. Now, what are the physical symptoms? In girls, look out for menstrual irregularities. So if you have a girl which has no period for the last 3, 4, 5 months, and there is an eating disorder involved, then yes, we have a problem. Now, during the reproductive ages, these girls can have problems with miscarriages, problems or complication during pregnancy itself, and this whole issue about becoming pregnant or being able to become pregnant is really associated with eating disorders. I mentioned the depression, the fatigue, low motivation, lethargy. There can be cognitive impairments, like including brain fog, like a lack of concentration, disorientation, even feeling dizzy. I've seen heart irregularities, low blood pressure, palpitation. The heart rhythm starts to change. Most often you see anemia, which is a low red blood count in the body. Anemia causes fatigue, even chronic fatigue, right? So that's why these girls are so, they're lacking the vital life force. Loss of muscle mass, right? The weakness comes then across in pains and spasms within the body. Then we have the reduction of bone density. These girls show signs of osteoporosis, which shouldn't happen at the time. Maybe they're gymnasts, right? Really want to look thin and, extra weight. And then they have fractures and injuries and they have complications and they don't heal. I also have seen dry skin, dry flaking skin, even discoloration of skin. There's also this condition called lanugo, which is sort of soft, fine hair up here in the face or on the body. Some believe that's the body's way of trying to keep the internal body temperature near normal, because these girls are constantly feel cold. Cold fingers, cold extremities, cold feet, right? They're lacking their life force, which is caused, given by nutrients. Hair thinning. It's a big deal, and they have so much vanity around that time anyway. So if you don't provide enough nutrients, it cannot support the healthy hair growth in the body. Most of the girls I've seen show strong family internal conflicts, even sexual conflicts. And there's a lot of peer pressure, right? Either among their friends to look like Twiggy all the time, or especially if they were slightly overweight. They usually have a sort of perfectionist personality. They're compulsive or overachievers in the first place already. And there's a lot of psychological stress involved. So yes, it's not an easy situation to be in. Now with that comes the vitamin and mineral deficiency, which can lead again into anorexia. See, it's like catch-22 here. Vitamin B1, thiamine, is one of the big ones. It's easily depleted by undereating. It's one of the nutrients that the body doesn't produce. So we have to get it from healthy food. And it comes in beans, whole grains, seeds, meats, vegetables, and that's what the dieters really don't want to have. But what are the common earlier symptoms of thiamine depletion? Watch out for that. Loss of appetite, reduced weight, abdominal discomfort, constipation, chest pain, anxiety, sleep disturbance, fatigue even, lack of well-being, depression and irritation. These are all symptoms which we already have recognized with anorexia anyway. So the vitamin and mineral depletion just adds another layer to that, or even produces it. Zinc is another one. It's very hard to find in foods, even if we not diet. But it's usually in red meat, egg yolk, sunflower seeds, everything's what's sort of more rich. But zinc is very, very, very important during the adolescence period. Why? Because the reproductive development is really at its height during that time. And zinc is very crucial for the reproductive function, as well as creating appetite, boosting the immune function. Remember, when you have a cold, everyone says, go and get your zinc, get your vitamin C, and you stop the cold. Mental clarity, it's all related to zinc. In boys and men, zinc is a key ingredient in terms of sperm production, and it protects also against prostate problems later on, as well as boosting the immune system. Another one could be protein malnutrition, which then affects the brain functions. So here then we have depression, anxiety, irritability, obsessiveness, and of course low self-esteem. One of these depletion is called tryptophan depletion, which directly is linked to depression, low self-esteem, obsession, and eating disorders. You maybe heard about the name serotonin. It's very well known. It's sort of a mood regulator in our brain, and it's made from the amino acid L-tryptophan. So because few foods contain these high amounts of tryptophan, it is one of the first nutrients that you can lose when you start dieting on a long-term basis. So a new study shows that serotonin levels can drop very low within 7 hours after tryptophan depletion. So when tryptophan deficiency causes these serotonin levels to drop, you know what happens? You become obsessed with your thoughts. You can't turn them off. And you have a behavior and it can't stop. See, you become it by just having this deficiency within your body. So once this rigid behavior pattern emerges in the course of dieting, the predisposition to eating disorders is therefore complete, just adds to it. So tryptophan, serotonin, compulsive overeating, and bulimia is a big deal here. For some reasons we don't understand, some dieters whose serotonin's level drop, yes, they have low self-esteem and they become obsessed with weight loss, but somehow they don't lose their appetite. And in contrary, these are the teenagers then in late afternoon, or especially during the winter time and the sun is low, they become overeaters, ravenous, bingers, particularly with sweets and starches. So apart from the suggested following homeopathic remedies, if you know an adolescence among your friends or your family where you suspect an eating disorder, I suggest that they should take the following supplements: zinc, tryptophan, a good vitamin and mineral supplement, and I also would suggest green superfood. You can add it in a glass of water or apple juice, your favorite smoothie. It doesn't add weight whatsoever, but it will give the cells the necessary nutrients which the body needs in order to survive. Also add more protein. As already mentioned in many videos before, in this presentation I only give you the first steps towards healing. So I want to share with you a homeopathic remedy which you can get hold of in your local health food store. Nothing too complicated. You can do that too. When you see these remedies, there's usually a number behind the name. It's called the potency, the strengths. Most of the shops only sell the potency 6 or 30. Now, every homeopathic remedy also carries a psychological picture. And the key here is that you find the matching frequency to which matches your teenager, right? And I will give you the personality pictures so you can recognize and identify that frequency and therefore give the right indicated remedy. The first one is called Arsenicum album 30. This personality shows extreme fastidiousness, right? They may be afraid of germs or dirt. Even the food is not safe. There can be chemicals in there, too many preservatives, or maybe even get poisoned by this food. They have this idea that everything has to be in place. Right? The control issue here is a big theme. And when things are in place, then they can rest. Right? So look out that even certain foods can give them diseases, and so they have to starve themselves. Right? They can really create really strong belief systems around the food. Again, restless, nervous, anxiety-ridden, and this kind of germophobics. That's the remedy I would choose in this situation. Argentum nitricum, it's based on silver. These are the people who have a real tendency for craving for sweets and carbs, but sweets a lot. So these are the teenagers who can literally gulp down a whole box of chocolate in one sitting and feel terribly sick afterwards. So they love salty foods, but mainly sweet food. Again, we see the anxiety here, but here more, for example, anxiety of that anticipation. Before an exam, will I fail? Going to the dentist, public speaking, God, it just totally freaks them out. So they have a lot of digestive symptomatology in terms of they get diarrhea when they get nervous before an event or before the exams even. But these are the ones who then binge on a whole box of chocolate and feel terribly sick, so think about that. Another remedy is called Ignatia 30. They're perfectionists too. Their fear of becoming fat. But here the story is about fear of rejection. There's a hysterical element in there. For your understanding, think about this remedy in teenagers who have breaking off of a relationship, moving house, moving into a different school, but feeling really sad, homesick, missing their friends. There's a lot of loss involved in this situation, disappointment, often related to breaking up of relationships, but also, about their weight gain, or that they were just binging again. These girls show amenorrhea, which means no menses. Their menstrual cycle starts to change, but there's also always the sad component involved. The sort of chronic remedy for agnasia is called natrium muriaticum, or natrium mur for short, again 30. Most often this remedy is indicated for anorexia, and here in combination with guilt. They feel terribly rejected. They're easily hurt. They're very self-conscious. On a physical level, they have dry lips. They emaciate, dry skin. They feel constipated, lose appetite. But behind this is a perfectionism or fear of not becoming fat. But these teenagers are really loners, right? They maybe were hurt, somebody dumped them. And then this girl would say, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I loved? So they trust in the very person who they were dependent on or loved is now shattered. So they can't stop thinking about that person. But they also have revenge and resentment about that. And then they end up, I will never love again. I will never trust anybody because I might get hurt again. So again, the eating disorder might start from that story. Another remedy called phosphoric acid. Here the etiology is very much also based on grief with loss of appetite and this weight loss emaciation. But they're pining away. They lost all their pleasure and joy for life. They just sit there, have their head on their hand, and just pine away, right? There's a deadness inside of them. There's grief and maybe also chronic diseases involved. They're so tired and dull of life. They're really pining away. So if you see that might be the remedy. Another remedy is called platina. It's a very precious metal, and therefore the personality. These are the models, the fashionistas, who want the best clothes, the designer clothes, which sort of portray an obsessiveness about, of course, everything has to be perfect with their body. And they're also arrogant, quite sort of egocentric about how life should be and how the body should be. Diva attitude, and as I said, they want the best clothes. Nothing less works for them. So if you see this personality and associated is a eating disorder, think about platina here. Really is a good remedy. Pulsatilla I've mentioned so many times in other videos, but it's valuable to mention it here as well. These are teenagers who feel worthless, unloved, loneliness, fixed ideas about certain things, particular food. I can't eat fat, I can't eat this. They talk about, I just look at a pastry and I gain a pound. Sounds familiar, even with adults. That remedy has a strong hormonal aspect, so you would expect irregularities during the periods with these girls here. They're very easily moved to tears, weepy, super, super sensitive. They don't want to be alone, they want company, but the core essence is really they feel lonely, they feel not loved. Also, as I said, it's a very common remedy. I'm sure you see that among teenagers. And if you see the eating disorder or starving themselves behind it, think about pulsatilla. The next remedy is called sepia. Again, a very strong hormonal remedy. They have even nausea or sensitivity to smell, disgust for food, especially worth after childbirth. Here we have a strong hormonal changes kicking in. There's lack of appetite. Particularly, you see this remedy coming up when the woman has a very bad relationship to her body image, but also to her sexuality. You know, am I really a woman, or am I really a man, or, you know, what's really going on here? They feel exhausted all the time because often they are seen in high-powered professions and at the same time juggling a family situation, and so they feel worn out. And they therefore don't feel much excitement or libido or sexuality towards their husbands, wives, or their spouses. There can be an indifference towards their loved one. Needless to say, as I said, there's no connection to their body or food or nurturing themselves because they're just exhausted and worn out. And of course, after giving birth, shedding the extra baby weight becomes a real issue here, and there may be hormonal changes going on and the personality on top of it, and everything goes south. So think about this remedy here too. The last one I want to mention here is called Staphysagria. It's a delphinium plant. Here it becomes more of a serious subject, but often that remedy is indicated with eating disorders if you see abuse, sexual abuse, mental emotional abuse. They feel worthless, they have deep depression, even suicidal tendency. There's a huge humiliation going on. They feel mortified. They're very, very sensitive to what people say to them, rude language. But they also feel rage about what happened to them, how this person talked to them, and they often feel pissed off. But they suppress it deep inside, and then eventually, this dormant volcano starts to erupt. So I would say, look at this remedy when you see abuse on all levels. It can actually release these energetic blocks in a very soft, but also in a very lasting way. Really, really transform that teenager in a way which you can't even imagine. I also, with the whole list of remedies I've given to you, I would add the Buffalo remedy crab apple. It's very indicated for anorexia, for a really negative body image and wanting perfection. So what are the best dosages here? Well, I would say 30. And I would say, this is my personal opinion, everyone has a different slant on that. Give 1 tablet daily for 10 days. Have a week break, start again for 10 days, and I would do 3 to 4 rounds as required and needed. You will need a backup here. Contact me at health@medicanova.net for personal consultation, or your healthcare practitioner. I can be a homeopath, or can be anybody who works with integrated medicine. So, I think that's all what I want to say today. Oh, no, I want to say that when you take these tablets, put them under your tongue. 10 or 15 minutes before and after you eat, do not drink or eat anything. Just let the remedy really nicely dissolve through your body. So I wish you all the very best here. Take care of your growing adolescents, and don't just throw the towel in and say, I can't deal with this situation. Yes, you can, and I'm here to support you through the entire journey. So till next time, much love.